Welcome to Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. I'm your host, Allison Preisinger-Heggins. Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories is a podcast exploring society, culture, and current events through conversation. We aspire to create an open, respectful, and equitable space where guests may feel free to share their truth and lived experiences. Our core values are rooted in community, connection, and personal development. Stories help us learn, relate, and grow. We are here to listen, to take notice. Thank you for being with us. I would like to acknowledge the land on which this episode was created. I would like to show gratitude to the traditional ancestral land of the Coast Salish people, including the Duwamish people past and present. Land acknowledgement statements are an important part of honoring those whose land we now live and work on. We begin each episode this way to help spark ideas and keep these conversations in the front of our minds so that we may continue to be open to doing better. I encourage listeners to research the land on which you live and are listening right now. Recognizing this is just the beginning. Some additional next steps to consider would be to seek out the stories of Native people from our shared history and today. Spend time asking yourself difficult questions and challenging norms that may be linked to colonialism. Engage in your community around topics like land tax, curriculum, hiring practices, decision-making, organizing, and reparations. Seek out media created by Native people. The more you explore, challenge, and learn, the more questions may arise, but this is how we grow and connect. Thank you for joining us for Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. Our country is in mourning and pain once again, or should I say, still. Before we get to our episode, I wanted to be sure to say a few words about the terrorist shooting in Buffalo that happened this last Saturday, May 14th. It's tough to look at, again, but we must. I encourage listeners to follow accounts like Sean King on social media to learn the stories of the victims. If there is an action you are moved to take in your own communities to work towards change in our country, I encourage you to follow your instincts, take steps towards that action, do what you can to call out, hold accountable, and make the actions of those with hate in their minds and hearts unacceptable everywhere. In honor of those who have lost their lives, let us take a moment and listen to their names. Roberta A. Drury, 32, of Buffalo. Margus D. Morrison, 52, of Buffalo. Andre McNeil, 53, of Auburn, New York. Aaron Salter, 55, of Lockport, New York. Geraldine Talley, 62, of Buffalo. Celestine Shaney, 65, of Buffalo. Hayward Patterson, 67, of Buffalo. Catherine Massey, 72, of Buffalo. Pearl Young, 77, of Buffalo. Ruth Whitfield, 86, of Buffalo. And of those who were injured, Zaire Goodman, 20, of Buffalo, who was treated and released from the hospital. Jennifer Warrington, 50, of Tonawanda, New York, was treated and released from the hospital. Christopher Braden, 55, of Lackawanna, New York, who had non-life-threatening injuries. According to CNN, New York Governor Kathy Hochul has announced $2.8 million in funding for the victims and their families, according to a statement from her office. GoFundMe has also compiled a list of verified fundraisers dedicated to helping in the wake of the tragedy. Just search GoFundMe Buffalo to find the list. We will also include it on our link tree on our Instagram page. Just find us at Take Notice Podcast. And in addition, I just wanted to say from the heart that as some of you, as most of you who have been listening for a while know, I am a white person and I am hosting this podcast with the hope of just providing a platform for those who want to share their stories and for those who want to listen to those stories and learn or connect on a deeper level to either something that one may has never experienced or one has experienced before and can get something out of hearing that they're not the only one. So I would like to encourage anybody that's in my position who is white and in a community of people that look like them who are white and may not get it yet to keep pushing and keep the message in the foreground that we need to make a change. I posted a few stories on my Instagram, my personal Instagram, this last week about the Buffalo shooting in the last couple of days, and it's clear that people unfollowed me. So, and I'm not surprised, and it's not a surprise, and it's more a reminder that I need to stand more firmly and be more open potentially about where I stand. So if people don't agree, and if they don't want to be connected with somebody who values other people's lives and can clearly see that there's a huge problem in our country and around the world in regards to all of this, white supremacy, terrorism, gun violence, all of it. There's problems, and you can't look away from it. And I don't know all the answers, obviously. And the main purpose of this podcast is to connect people and to provide a platform for people to share their stories who have not been given that platform on an equitable level as white people. They just haven't. So all this to say, just to encourage other white people like myself to continue to learn and educate yourselves, and to continue to be an example. Not necessarily go around preaching, because I don't know that helps anything, but to be an example and to be a guide. Because the more people who know what the issues are, and the more people who are educated on the full picture of what's been going on and what continues to be allowed to go on, the more we can squash it, the more we can make less room for those who are trying to continue and perpetuate the status quo. And that was just a rambling thought. And I meant to also say that if I pronounced anybody's name incorrectly in our listing of names of people who have passed, I apologize for that. But thank you for listening to this. I am very excited and happy and pleased to share my conversation with this episode's guest, Sha'Leah Nikole. We had a lovely conversation a couple months ago. She has some wonderful work coming out soon, and also recently out. She's an entertainer. She was recently in a movie called Remember Me. So look that up. You can find a link in the show notes. Sha'Leah Nikole is a songbird from South Central Los Angeles. So she grew up surrounded by the arts. After graduating from college, Sha'Leah began songwriting, singing background vocals, and sharing the stage with several Grammy Award-winning artists. Her single, King Me, was released on March 4th, 2022, and her sophomore EP, Work of Heart, is set to be released on May 27th, so not long from now. When Sha'Leah isn't focusing her energy on creating music, she is serving her community with her nonprofit, My Footprints LA, an organization that promotes self-growth through service and mentorship. And we discuss all of these things, plus her work in acting, in our episode today, in our conversation today. Thank you for supporting our Take Notice guests, and thank you for being with us. Please enjoy my conversation with Sha'Leah Nikole. Well, Sha'Leah, thanks for joining me on Take Notice. It's great to connect with you. I wish we could show your background, but it's only audio. So it's a beautiful
Thank you for having me.
Flowers and everything. Yeah. So you're in LA, right?
Yes.
Or is that correct? What part of LA are you in?
Right now I'm in Carson, which is the South Bay area. So close to Long Beach and, Redondo Beach, all the beaches. So I'm in the South Bay area.
Okay, nice. I bet it's beautiful down there.
It is.
We have some sun here today, so maybe it's mirroring, but it's definitely probably colder.
Where are you exactly?
Oh, I'm up in Seattle. So.
Oh, okay.
It's been rainy.
I have a couple friends in Seattle, yes.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. But yeah, I think I would enjoy Southern California for sure.
At least for a little visit.
Yeah. Did you grow up in that area or?
No, not in the South Bay area. I grew up in South Central area. So that's the east side of LA.
So you lived in California your whole life then?
Yes, born and raised in California.
Nice.
And I've gotten to live a few different places. When I was younger, we moved around a bit. So I lived in Inglewood, in Long Beach, in the IE area. And then for the most part, we stayed in South Central. So that's where I grew up from probably like the fifth grade all the way through college.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Where'd you go to college? Did you in California as well, or?
No, I went to school in New York, actually upstate New York, because people in New York will say there's a difference. So
Yeah.
I went to school upstate New York, Alfred University, and it's in a really small town called Alfred. It's in between Buffalo and Rochester, so it gets very cold up there.
Yeah, a little bit different climate for sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, it was my when
Hmm.
I went to college. That was my first time ever seeing snow fall from the sky. And I
Oh,
was like, "Oh my God," like blown away. I was just calling my mom, like, "Oh my goodness." And all of my friends were like, "Yeah, you're by next week, you're going to be over it."
yeah. Yeah, yeah, especially because it sticks around for quite a while around there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Oh, so who did you grow up surrounded by in California? Parents, family?
Yes, so my mom is a single mother. She raised myself and my brother, and she has four brothers. So I was surrounded by my cousins a lot. There was a point where we lived with one of my uncles and aunts, and so just always surrounded by family. My grandmother was a big part in my life, and even my dad's side of the family, his sister, she lives here in California, so my cousins on that side as well. So it was very family oriented. Like I got to spend a lot of time with my cousins growing up, and that was, I realize now a lot of people don't experience that same thing where they get to grow up with their cousins and develop those friendships. So that was definitely something I'm grateful for, that I had the opportunity to grow up like that.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. I have quite a few cousins myself that at least a handful of them we got to grow up together. So,
Hmm.
and then the lasting friendships from that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is your brother older or younger?
He's older. Yep.
Yeah. Is he still in the California area too?
Yes, he is. He's also in music as well. So he's traveling a lot, but he's in California in the IE. So he lives in Rancho Cucamonga. Not
Okay.
too close to me, maybe like an hour or
Mm,
so drive. So, I mean, it's not
hmm.
too bad. But with
Nice.
traffic, I'm sure you've heard of LA traffic. So that's
Yeah.
what can change everything.
Yeah, I have definitely heard, and it's worse than up here. For what I have heard anyway, it's pretty bad up here,
It's
but worse
terrible.
there.
I think
Yeah.
probably Los Angeles and New York have some of the worst traffic that I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, where you're just sitting for hours.
Hmm.
That's terrible. You might as well just
Yeah,
stay home, huh?
right. Exactly.
So you are in the music business, and can you describe kind of what you're up to lately with
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
So I am a singer, songwriter. I kind of like to just say I'm an entertainer because I also am an actress. And so I do theater as well.
Oh,
And
great.
right now I am doing promo for a single that I just released last Friday. And I'm preparing for an EP that I'm going to release in the spring. So there's just been a lot of work surrounding getting ready for the releases. But this week I had a performance yesterday to kind of help promote the single, and it's been going pretty well. Like, I've been having a lot of fun just getting to, talk to people about the music and perform the music and see what people think about it. So that's what I've been doing, and that's what my focus has been for, like, the past couple weeks.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a lot of work. I'm a singer-songwriter myself and
Okay.
do it independently, but
Same.
yeah, yeah. So it's a lot of hats that you have to do, and releasing something's like kind of trying to get all the pieces in order. So
Oh
that's
my gosh. Yes.
congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome. Have you been into music since you were little? Were you singing middle school, high school, or
So
what
I
got you started?
started in theater, musical theater, and like at the age of 9, that's when I started performing arts. And then I continued, well, I'm still in the theater, so I continue to do that. But I started to kind of focus more on music as, a passion of mine. I would say maybe like eighth grade into high school. So I started to like sing more. I was in a girl group and we would, sing and perform around LA and different things like that. So I think I really started to pursue it as like a passion and as a dream of mine, like maybe 13.
Let's see, was Alfred University in upstate New York? Was that what you said? Did you go for music there or?
I didn't. I
Okay.
I was going to double major in theater, like musical theater and business, but I quickly found out that business was not my thing. All these accounting classes and everything. So I was like, yeah,
Mm,
I need to change my major. So I ended up changing to communications, and I don't know, I wasn't there was a certain type of acting class and things that I was used to. So when I went to school and the classes were like a lot different from what I was used to, I didn't stick with it. I wish I would have, because I would have been, even more well rounded. But I was just like, this is whack. I don't like it. This is boring. And I didn't stick with it. So I ended up just
mm.
majoring in communications. And then probably my junior and senior year, I got to be a part of the theater. They wanted me to audition for one of the musicals. So I was able to be a part of it, but I didn't get to study as much as I could have.
Oh, I see. What
Mhm.
were some of the differences between what you were used to and what they were offering there?
So I mean, I think it was more, getting really into the history of theater and like learning the different styles of acting. And I was more used to, I started in a performing arts conservatory and we did learn history of theater, but we kind of were more on our feet. And we were like, right, okay, let's get on stage. We improv, then we, learn audition for a show. And I think that was because it was a shorter time frame that we had. Each semester was, maybe 8 weeks. So we had a shorter time frame, whereas in college, you have a lot longer to really dive into these things. So I didn't take that opportunity, but I was blessed, later in my college career to kind of go back and dabble in it a little bit. So, I still got to learn a little bit.
That's good. What were some of the performances that you did later on?
I was in Once on This Island at my school and I played a soccer. So that was a very, very fun experience. And then I was also in the chorus at the school. And then I started a gospel choir at a friend of mine. Me and my friend, we started this gospel choir. And so, that's how I kind of stayed involved with the theater and the music at the school.
Okay. Wonderful. And then after you graduated, did you come straight back to Southern
I
California?
did. I did.
Nice.
I came
Yeah.
back home and I just was like, I wanna write. I wanna write music. So I got a job working in an after school program, and that way I could like spend most of my time kind of writing. And so I reached out to a friend of mine who is like family to me, and he's a part of a collective called 1500 or Nothing. And they're Grammy Award winning producers, songwriters. And so when I graduated college, I hit him up and I said, I want to write. And he said, okay, just come to the studio. So I started going to the studio every day and just being surrounded by writers and producers and artists and kind of just really honing in on my skills as a writer. Like I just went and I would write. And so that's how I kind of got into really writing professionally.
Nice. Yeah. And kind of just digging into it without, I took a bunch of songwriting classes and stuff, which is a different approach, but also a little bit different than just like diving in and being hands
Hmm.
on with it. So that sounds awesome. That sounds like a great experience.
Yes,
Yeah.
it absolutely was.
Wonderful. So then you eventually got into something called the Sunday Service Collective. Can you describe
Yes.
the progression from kind of straight out of college, getting into writing in the studio with family, and then how long
Yeah.
was it before you got into that?
So I graduated, I came home, I began to write, and I didn't really tap back into theater until a little bit later. And I even moved back to New York
Mm.
after being home for a few years. I moved back to New York, still focusing on my writing and music. And I got to work with a friend of mine, Taylor Hill, and I would just I lived in Brooklyn at the time, and he lived in Queens. So I would have to take It took me like 2.5, 3 hours to get there. I would take the
Mm.
train to Times Square, and then I would have to get on another train to go to Queens, and then I would have to get off the train, get on a bus to go to where he lived in Queens. So it was a journey, but I really wanted to learn and I really wanted to record. And so, I made those trips, and it definitely helped me become, a better writer and a better artist. And so I lived out there for a year, and then I decided to come back home because I wanted to pursue music as an artist. And I had a lot more connections in LA. So I came back home and I started to, again, dive back into the music. And I think maybe after being home for like a year or two, one of my directors from the performing arts school that I went to as a kid, she reached out to me and had me audition for this musical. So I auditioned for the musical, I booked it, and so I started to get back into the theater world. And I was doing that for a while and just meeting a lot of different people. And I think maybe a few years after doing more theater, I met so many different people, and I got a call from a friend of mine who went to the performing arts school with me, and she was like, "Hey, you should audition for the Sunday service. They're looking for new singers." And I said, "I don't know. I don't really know if I want to do that," because I was a huge fan of Kanye West growing up. When I was in high school, he released The College Dropout and Graduation and all those monumental albums that like started his career. And I think by that time, when someone reached out to me in the past years, a lot had shifted with Kanye West. And, it was kind of some of the music he was putting out later, I wasn't a huge fan of. It was just a little darker for me. And I was just, I was like, I'm not sure. There's like a lot happening. I don't really know if this is something for me. And so that was my answer. And then someone else reached out to me and was like, "Hey, you should audition. They have they have auditions for the choir. You should come in." And I was like, I don't know. And then someone else hit me up. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just give it a shot. I'm just going to try, go audition, and whatever happens, like if it's meant for me, then I'll get it. And, we'll go from there. And, I'm a firm believer in what's for you, you will have. And so I auditioned, and they called me, or they texted me and said, "Hey, are you available for rehearsals starting this date?" And I happened to be in New York for like I was visiting. And so I was like, "Ugh," I thought I missed my opportunity. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in New York and I won't be able to be there." And I was like, "Hopefully, the opportunity will present itself again and I'll be able to do it." And so I went back home, and then maybe 2 weeks later, they reached out to me again, and I was home, and I was like, "Yes, I can come." So I went, I started rehearsals, and, it was definitely an experience that changed my life.
Mm.
It was something that it was a historical moment in Kanye West's career, but it was just a historical moment for music that we got to be a part of, that I got to be a part of. We traveled the world singing gospel music in stadiums and different places, and we traveled and we did all these amazing things, and people were just like so blown away by it, but also people were like, being introduced to God. And that was amazing to be a part of that. And so just, from the day we started to, the day that right before the pandemic happened, we
Mm.
the last thing we did was we went to Paris for Fashion Week. And so we had a Sunday service in this old theater that had been there since like, I don't know, the 1940s or something like that. And yeah, we had this amazing service. People were touched and inspired and just encouraged. And then we come back home and the world shut down.
Mm.
So it was just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big shift. So everything kind of just stopped, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
because everything that we did, well, whenever we did Sunday service, we had people, they were able to come in and experience the worship service. And so, with everything that happened with the pandemic, we had to shut it down, and we weren't able to, do the services anymore.
Yeah. How long had you been on the road before that?
Um, almost. We started traveling later in the year, so maybe like 5 months. We were just traveling all over the US and, out of the country. So it was a long time that, to be going and getting on planes every weekend or every week and going
Mm,
different places.
wow. Yeah. So then when the pandemic hit and you were just stuck in LA, what did you end up doing? How did that affect you personally?
Well, I definitely took a break
Mm.
from music. Like, I don't know, I don't think I just wasn't inspired really. So I kind of just, chilled, hung out with my family, and I started to get like more into the word of God, and I was, spending more time doing that. And then everything started happening with the police brutality and the injustices that were happening in the world all over. And I finally was like, okay, I want to write something that can be uplifting, something that can inspire people in this time. So the first song that I wrote during the pandemic was a song of mine called Mahogany, and it celebrates Black culture, Black beauty, Black legacy. And, once I wrote that song, I was able to, the floodgates started to open of creativity and just ideas and things like that. So I just wanted to make sure that the first thing I said was something that would inspire us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. When you approach your music, I'm curious as a songwriter too, what's the first thing that you do? Because there's so many different approaches. What's your first approach?
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends. If I have the music already, then I kind of will listen to the music and see how it makes me feel. And then I'm like, okay, this is like, I feel, upbeat, I feel happy. So let's see, what do I want to talk about? And then if
Mm.
I don't have a track, sometimes I'll just get song ideas and I write them in my notes in my phone if I have like an idea, or if I hear a song lyric that has a line that I'm like, oh, that would be a good song. So I'll write that in my notes, and sometimes I'll get a beat or a track or have, hear some acoustic guitar. And then I'll look over my notes and see like, what did I write previously? And then I'll kind of pull from that sometimes. So, there's a couple different ways I go about it, but I always listen to the music to see how it makes me feel first.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did the album that you have coming out in May, did that kind of develop since the pandemic hit, or were you
It
working on it
did.
beforehand too?
No,
Okay.
yeah, I started working on it during the pandemic. So all the songs that are a part of the project are songs that were birthed from this, creativity that I was given during the pandemic.
Nice. And the song that you released on March 4th, this
hmm
last Friday, at least during this recording, what was the inspiration for that song?
So that song, it's called King Me. And when I heard the music, the first thing that came into my head was the chorus, which is like, King me, I ain't worried about you. And so I was like, okay. So I started to like elaborate on that, and I went into the studio, and literally I was done with the song in like 30 minutes or something like that.
Mm,
And
wow.
it just talks about when you finally stop believing the lies that society tells you, or the lies that you tell yourself, and you know who you are, and you start to have confidence in who you are and whose you are, and you just realize that you don't have to worry about the naysayers, the negativity. You just move forward and you demand your respect. You demand that people treat you a certain way. And so I think anybody can relate to it, from relationships to business to friendships, or things that, even comparison on social media. It's always something where you have to find that confidence in yourself and just really realize like, okay, I am who I am, and be proud of that, and demand others to respect that about you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I look forward to hearing it.
Thank you.
And then your album coming out in May. Also,
hmm
I look forward to that too. Is it going to
Yes,
be
I'm
released
excited.
everywhere, I imagine?
Yes, everywhere,
Nice.
everywhere.
Did you collaborate with anyone for this, or
Yeah,
how'd you put it together?
I did. So I work a lot with the producer named Siege Monstrosity. So he sent me a few tracks and I wrote to those. And one of the songs, which is the one that I released on Friday, I reached out to my friend D Smoke, and he recently was it during the pandemic? The pandemic, it just confuses me with years now, so I don't
Oh
really know
yeah.
what
No.
what happened.
It
But
blends together.
he won a competition on Netflix called Rhythm and Flow, where they were looking for rappers and different things like that. So
Okay.
I reached out to him and he got on the song. And then I also reached out to another friend of mine who is an LA native, and he does a lot of performances here in the city and it's just like well respected, well known. His name is Black. So we collaborated on a couple things. And then, of course, my brother, he was around during the whole pandemic. So I would play things for him. He would give me ideas. And so he was definitely a part of the collaboration as well.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So collaborating is, you get so many other ideas and it's
Hmm.
important to get the feedback. That's wonderful. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing it. Is this your first full album or have you released your own stuff before?
Yeah. So I've released an EP, I think maybe like 4 years
Oh,
ago now.
that's right. I
So
think you
this will
mentioned
be
that. Okay.
my first EP since then. So it's been a while. And,
Sure.
people have been like, when are you putting out music? And when are you gonna and I'm just like, I'm not gonna release music just to release it. Like I have to
Right.
have something to say. So
Yeah.
now I have a lot to say and it's all in this music.
That's great. Yeah, that's important. I feel like a lot of people get stuck in the needing to release just to
Hmm.
get stuff out. You're right. Yeah. And
Yeah,
it makes a big difference when it's actually from the heart. And
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
And I think for me, because yes, music is a passion of mine and being a singer is something that I love to do, but I also love acting and I also love theater and I also love service events. So it's whereas some people is like this is all I do a few other things. So
right.
it's kind of like if I'm not putting out music, I might be doing this musical right now and I'm putting my focus and energy into that or so it's a few different things that I put my heart and my energy into. And music is definitely one of those at the top of the list. But, sometimes I'm doing something else in the entertainment. So,
Right. Yeah. And I imagine for the pandemic, theater hasn't been as much of an
no.
opportunity, right? Has that
Yeah.
shifted now or
Yeah, it did. So last year, at the end of the year, I did a musical, and that was my first musical since everything happened with the pandemic and it was very different with all the protocols in place and
oh yeah.
trying to make sure everyone stayed safe and stayed healthy and we did a really good job. We started rehearsals in November and everything was masked. We had to do all the social distancing and then when we opened the show, I believe that was right around the time that the numbers started to just go skyrocket in
Right.
December. And so we did the show, we opened the show, and it was supposed to go all the way through Christmas, but people started getting COVID and we end up having to shut down the very last week of the show because,
Hmm.
people were getting sick. So
Hmm.
it started out really great, very different, but, people are still trying to figure out how to, make it work. So,
Right. Yeah. That Omicron messed
yeah.
people up. That's
Oh
for
my
sure.
gosh, it
Ugh.
was crazy,
Yeah.
like left and right.
Yeah. Do you have theater opportunities on the horizon now, or is it kind of still on a standby?
It's kind of still on a standby. I mean, I think if I would look and submit for different things, then I probably, because there's, theater is happening,
Mhm.
shows are open and people are doing it. But right now, like I said, I'm kind of focused in on my music right now
Right.
and,
Yeah.
being able to fund that. So
Yeah.
I'm doing my music, but I'm also, like I said, music is also my job. So I do other things in music. So I'll be going on tour singing backup for a band from the UK called Spiritualized for like 3.5 weeks. And so, in doing that, I am doing what I love, but I'm also being able to fund my dream. So, I try to keep it in the entertainment and still be able to make money to pour that into things that I want to do for myself.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I also read that you have a nonprofit as well. My Footprints
Yes.
LA, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've always had a connection with the youth. I went to a performing arts school growing up, and when I graduated high school, I started to go back and volunteer. And then when I was in college, I got on the staff and I started working and teaching voice classes, songwriting classes, even a step class. And so I noticed that the kids gravitated toward me and I kind of became a mentor to these young people. So my footprint started as a mentorship to pour into the youth of the inner city and just show them different things that they wouldn't normally see. So I started with workshops and guest speakers, bringing in guest speakers. I did a partnership with a middle school where I would come twice a week and we would do these different exercises and team building exercises, self-esteem building exercises. And then I would bring in different guest speakers. So I brought in, a doctor, and I would bring in a Black doctor so that the kids could see, like, look, you can do this. You can be a doctor too. And I brought in actors, of course, entertainers and writers. And so just different fields so that the kids could see that there's so many possibilities. And we ended the session with a service event. And that's, very important to me, to be able to give back to your community. And so now my footprints is really based on service and mentorship. So just pulling people together and, for the greater good of the community and just building one's self.
That sounds really great. How long have you had that organization?
About 5 years.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
I just started. And then as I began, people, mentors of mine, they said, okay, now you can start getting your nonprofit and your 501c3 and doing all those things, but just start. So they were like, don't wait to get it until you start, get started and then do it. So that's what I've done. And, each year is better. We try to do more each year and give back and just touch the lives of the people who are in the community.
That's wonderful. It sounds like an
Thank
awesome
you.
program. Yeah, very important
Mhm.
work. I like that. So growing up, who or what was a big influence for you growing up or in your career now?
Yeah, growing up, I would say, and even now, my mom, she definitely was a huge influence. Growing up, her being a single mom and really doing everything that she could to make sure my brother and I didn't fall into the life of the streets, because we grew up in South Central, so there was gangs around and all kinds of things. And so she put us into performing arts, and it wasn't free, so she had to find ways to make sure that we could pay for our tuition. She started cooking meat lunch at the Performing Arts Conservatory to help us, pay
Mhm.
for the school, and we could be on scholarship. And she did hair and makeup for the plays and all kinds of stuff to make sure that we were able to be in this environment, that we were being, built up and learning tools that were going to help us in our future. And so she definitely inspires me. She inspired me then, and she continues to inspire me now. She has her own business and she continues to just pave the way. And so I would definitely say my mom. And then I will also say Wendy Raquel Robinson, who is the founder of the Performing Arts School that I went to. She is, a pillar in the community, and she's a pillar in the entertainment world. But I love that she uses her platform to give back to the community. And this school has changed the lives of so many young people. And she's still, no matter how huge she gets and all the work that she does, it is still a huge part of her life. And so she is a mentor of mine. And she's just inspired me from, the time I was a child to now, where I can just call her and talk to her and say, hey, this is what's going on. And she's always supportive. She's always there to help with whatever she can. And she's definitely a huge inspiration for me.
That's wonderful. Teachers and mentors in that capacity, there's nothing like it. It's super special. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's wonderful that you're
absolutely.
still connected too. Hmm.
Yes. It's actually the 25th year anniversary of when the school opened. So it's been 25 years that she's been pouring into the community, and the alumni that have come from the school we're all doing so many amazing things in the community, in entertainment. And so it's a great network of people to have. And more than a network, it's a family. Like once you're a part of AGC, Amazing Grace Conservatory, the shorter acronym is AGC. Once you're
Yeah,
a part of it, you are family for life. So yeah,
that's pretty special.
absolutely.
What business does your mom have? What does she do?
So my mom helps infertile couples who can't have children,
Okay.
and she works in the fertility field. And so she's been doing that for almost 15, 20 years.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's great
Mm.
work.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful that she gets to help these people who, wouldn't otherwise be able to have children.
Hmm.
It's definitely a blessing, and she loves what she does.
That's awesome. So what did she do when you were growing up? If that was only back about 15 years or so.
So honestly, when I was younger, I don't really remember. I wasn't really like
Yeah.
worried about, what my mom was doing.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, I kind of just was living my kid life. And then I think maybe, so it probably was 20 years ago that she has had her own business, but she started in the field maybe a little earlier than that. So she was working
Sure.
for another company, and then she decided to, do it on her own.
Okay.
But
It's
she's always
funny.
done.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's funny. I always forget. Most people probably don't know what their parents did when they were growing up, because like why would they?
Right. And I kind of think about that. I'm like, I don't even really know what. I was just
Yeah,
living my best kid life.
yeah, as you should have been. That's wonderful. So, Take Notice has the mission of Take Notice, our podcast, is about community connection and personal development. So, what is one action you might suggest that people take to start or continue their journey of personal development involving issues of racism?
I think the first thing would be educate yourself. There's so much to learn about the history of systemic racism in this country. And I think if people would learn about the journey, they would have more empathy and, be able to better understand the things that are happening even today. Because as a black woman, I look back at my grandmother. She tells me stories of her life, and then I look at my mother's time, and some of the same things that they experienced, we're experiencing them now. So to educate yourself and really know the history of the way this country has treated people of color, black people specifically, it really is important because it is American history. And, we don't get to really learn a lot about it in schools, but I think when they say knowledge is power. So the more you know, then the more you can do about what it is that you know and find ways that you can be of support, because it looks different for everyone. Everyone is not going to be doing this one specific thing. Like, I'm going to be at rallies, or I'm going to support, it looks different for everyone. And I think when you learn and you get that knowledge, you'll be able to decide what it is for you, what it looks like for you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I completely agree. The more you learn, the more you can do, and the more you recognize patterns and things
Hmm.
that are not okay, all kinds of things.
Exactly.
Did your mom and grandmother also grow up in California?
So my grandmother is from Arkansas. So she grew up
Okay.
in the South, and then
Mhm.
she moved to California. Her kids were born here, but they also grew up in Arkansas. And so I think my mom, she stayed here in LA. She was born here, and then she moved to Arkansas maybe in middle school. And so
Mhm.
she finished middle school and high school out there, and then moved back to LA.
Okay. Okay. So a
Mhm.
little bit different community and environment, and then coming
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, definitely. The more that you learn, and we don't, we learn some things in school, but it's not it needs to develop. It needs to
Absolutely. I was
expand.
listening to something. There's an initiative where a woman, she created a curriculum where students can learn about other Black historians or people in Black history that we don't get to normally learn about, because in Black History Month, we learn about the same people every year. You know, they did amazing things: Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman. But there are so many other people that did amazing things in history that we never learn about, because it's kind of just like put into the history books. These are the certain things that we're going to learn and then move on. But there's
Mhm.
so much more to know about the involvement that, you know, African Americans have made in this community. It's American history. At the end of the day, Black history is American history.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so much in. So we're doing this interview in March, but last month in February, I was following this anti-racism daily. They sent out an email each day of the month, and it was a different piece of history, like the first African American film or play, or I'm blanking on names and things, but names of folks that I hadn't heard before, like
Right.
the man that helped out the Martin Luther King with the civil rights movement, who was gay. I can't think of his name at the moment, but he was gay. And so he had to kind of take a back seat because of
Mm,
that whole issue. So the intersections that come across
wow.
in history as well. So yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. So
So
much to learn. So much.
mhm. Yeah. So what kinds of things do you have on the horizon? I know you recently, you're probably doing a lot of work for that single still, and then your upcoming
Yes.
album, but what other
Hmm.
things are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to. I did my first movie last
Oh,
20. What is this year? So 2020 into 2021,
uh-huh.
and it's called Remember Me. It's a story of Mahalia Jackson, and it's really awesome because, like we said, people know Mahalia Jackson for her music, but they don't know how much of an integral role she played in the civil rights movement. So it's really awesome to be able to tell her story. And we had some amazing people in the cast, from Letticy, who plays Mahalia Jackson as an adult, and I play her in her younger years. And we have
Mm,
Janet Hubert, who is absolutely amazing. I was a little starstruck when I met her. I was like, oh my gosh, I love Janet Hubert. She was Aunt Viv on the original Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
that's
And when I
right.
met
Yeah.
her on set, I was like, oh my gosh, like she was so great, so kind. And she kind of just broke down to us like how she started, and she went to Juilliard and just all the amazing things that she's done that I had no idea about. But she was great. And there's so many people that came together to tell this amazing story. And I think this year it's going to start doing some festivals and different things like that. So I'm really excited about that, for people to hear her story, and just I get to shine in a different light, you know. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, I look forward to looking out for that. Awesome.
Yeah, definitely, you know, more service events with my footprints. We did something at the beginning of the year, and so, you know, I want to continue to keep that momentum and do some other events throughout the year. So it's always, you know, a lot of planning that I'm learning to plan more in advance. So that's what I'm doing this year, a better job of planning things in advance so that I don't have to kind of scramble to get all these things done. So it's a learning process, but it's
Yeah.
definitely it's happening. I'm doing well.
That's good. That's important. Yeah, to keep helps keep your sanity. Do you have folks helping you with the
Oh
nonprofit?
yes. Yes,
Nice.
yes. Thank God. I'm like, but still, you know, it's kind of like being an independent artist. There still are so many hats that you have to wear yourself until you are
Mhm.
able to get this, larger team. So, I have
Mhm.
a few people helping me out, and, thank God for them.
Makes a big difference.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, is there anything else that you want to mention or highlight, or anything that we missed?
I don't think so. I mean, I would love for people to check out the music that's out now and that is coming, and just, I'm looking forward to sharing more music, but definitely, check out what I have now. I love to hear people's feedback and, how the music inspires them. So absolutely,
Wonderful.
please check it out.
Yeah, we'll put a link to it in the show notes, but what's the best spot to find your music?
Everywhere. So wherever people
Nice.
stream music, if it's Apple, Spotify, Tidal, Amazon Music, everything, it's all available there, even YouTube. So anywhere you
Perfect.
look, you should be able to find it.
Wonderful. And Sha'Leah Nikole.
Yes.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well,
Yes.
thanks, Sha'Leah, for joining me. It's been wonderful to hear your story and all the things that you have going on and what led up to it. And it's gone by so fast. I can't believe
I
that we're
know.
already at the end.
Thank you
So,
so much for having me and just having this platform for people to tell their stories and just amplifying Black voices. That's amazing. And I thank you and I salute you for doing that.
oh, I appreciate that. It's been wonderful, and I'm really happy to be able to be a part of this project, myself. So happy to do it, and it's been wonderful, and it's great to connect with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for Take Notice Amplifying Black Stories. Please subscribe and follow us on social media. We are at Take Notice Podcast. It would really help us out if you could take a couple of minutes to review our podcast. You can do so through your podcast app or by visiting our website. It's takenoticepodcast.org. Thank you for your support. Take Notice Amplifying Black Stories is produced, hosted, and edited by Allison Preisinger-Heggins with help from many. Music by Version Big 5 featuring Darius Heggins. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for taking notice.
Take away